Good afternoon, and welcome to another pastoral video from Two Saints. Today I'm going to talk about a theme on seeing and blessing, and also the idea that sometimes in the midst of blessings there is grief, and grief sometimes brings blessings, that sort of circular thinking. And one of my favorite poets and essayists is Jan Richardson. She's also a visual artist, and she's written this. She says, "A blessing does not end. This is part of the fundamental nature of a blessing. The energy and the grace of it cannot dissipate or disappear. The form of a blessing might change with changing circumstances, but it cannot be destroyed. The essence of a blessing endures. It lives in the community that mediated the blessing and continues to hold it in memory and celebration. It lives in the hope that persists. It lives most of all in the love that called forth the blessing in the first place. The love, that is, as the Song of Songs tells us, is as strong as death." When we experience horrendous, life-altering loss, it can seem that the blessing we had known has indeed disappeared. When a person who embodied that blessing and borne that blessing in our lives is no longer physically present, it can be difficult to believe that the blessing is still present, is still active, is still in force. Part of the invitation of grief is to keep our eyes and our hearts open to how the blessing persists, how it still wants to be known in our lives, and how it wants to help us live still when our lives had fallen apart. In this week's gospel lection, we witness the enduring power of a blessing. Walking the road to Emmaus with the risen Christ, Cleopas and his companion feel the burning of the blessing in their hearts. Not until they sit down at the Emmaus table with Jesus, hear him speak words of blessing, and see him break the bread, does recognition begin to dawn. Their eyes were opened, Luke tells us. They recognize, they see, they know the truth of the one before them, that the Christ who came as love made flesh, as blessing embodied, will continue to live in the love that is stronger than death. And here is her poem. "From the moment it first laid eyes on you, this blessing loved you. This blessing knew you from the start. It cannot explain how. It just knows that the first time it sat down beside you, it entered into a conversation that had already been going on forever. Believe this conversation has not stopped. Believe this love still lives. The love that crossed an impossible distance to reach you, to find you, to take your face into its hands and bless you. Believe this does not end, that the gesture, once enacted, endures. Believe this love goes on, that it still takes your face into its hands. Then it presses its forehead to yours, as it speaks to you in undying words that it has never ceased to gather your heart into its heart. Believe this blessing abides. Believe it goes with you always. Believe it knows you still." And I would say this is a good metaphor for church, and how church is different, and how we have been blessed by the church. And even though we are not physically able to be in the midst of the brick and mortar church, we are still blessed, and the blessing continues. May you have peace this day and always until we meet again. God bless.